It's when you talk about other people behind their backs.
Personally, I think gossiping is talking about others, and it's just unnecessary talk.
Okay, so what's gossiping?
Gossiping is speaking about someone behind their back in a malicious way.
Okay, I once heard a priest say that gossiping is the opposite of what we're supposed to do as a Christian. As a Christian, we're supposed to be spreading God's love through our words.
So what's the difference between gossiping and venting?
Well, gossiping is harmful. Even if it's something, if it's something that you tell me and you trust me, and I go tell other people, I think that's gossiping. Especially if it's something you don't want people to know. And any rumours, just spreading it is gossiping. But venting is more just letting steam out, and to me it's just not really saying the person.
Venting's probably a fair bit different. We all vent about something that someone else might do. You know, everyone has annoying habits or things like that. But gossiping is probably more hurtful.
Venting is, I think, when you're letting out your frustrations about a situation and you don't have the malicious intent of, spreading a rumour around that could potentially ruin someone's reputation or hurt them in any way. Whereas gossiping is just that, you're spreading.
The thing is about venting is that it doesn't actually have to be a bad thing. So if you think of the definition, venting basically means just expressing yourself or your feelings or your emotions. Oh. Yes. And so David the psalmist, he said, "In my distress I cried to the Lord, and I pour out my complaint before the Lord. Before him I declare my trouble." And so David even vented. He expressed himself much before the Lord. The thing that will determine whether or not venting is a good thing or a bad thing is actually this question. Ready? In whose presence am I venting? If I'm venting before the Lord, then this is prayer. If I'm venting in front of people, then this may easily turn to gossip.
What's the difference between venting and gossiping?
Well, venting is when you let out some rage every now and then. Gossiping is when you gossip. Yani, what does that have to do with that?
Venting is, I don't know, is there a difference? I think, venting is not particularly about a person or to harm another person,
If I am struggling with gossiping, what can I do, practically? Our Lord Jesus Christ tells us a very simple and beautiful answer. He tells us this. He says, "A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart his mouth speaks." And so what our Lord Jesus Christ tells us is that the problem is not my mouth, but it's actually my heart.
How I try to do it is, I don't appreciate it when people gossip about me, and I don't think they would either. So I try to put myself in this situation, and I think, how would they feel if I gossip?
There's a verse in Proverbs that says, "In the multitude of words, sin is not lacking." So I think silence is golden. When we're told, as kids, we're told that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I think it's as simple as that.
Stop gossiping. I don't know. Try and not talk about people as much.
Fair enough. There you have it, folks.
What is gossiping? I think very simply, gossiping is talking about another person behind their back. And that, in this day and age, of course, doesn't necessarily have to be verbal, but it can be obviously using any technology, whether it's via SMS or social media or whatever. So I think very simply, it is talking about somebody, and it usually happens in a situation behind their back. And now, I guess, what is the difference between venting and gossiping? So I think a lot of the time, somebody's irritated us and you just need to get something off your chest. So I think, for me, one very simple difference is mentioning the name. A very simple kind of policy that I have, and it might be overly simplistic, is that if I'm just talking to somebody and just getting things off my chest, I'm venting. If I say, I'm very bothered by somebody, I need to get something off my chest, oh my goodness, person X, Y or Z is very annoying, then I think the venting has become gossiping. So my opinion is that the difference between venting and gossiping is, whether or not the other person that you're dealing with or talking to knows the name. And of course we have to be wise. If it's very obvious who the person is and I don't mention the name, then that still is referred to as gossiping. So we're just talking about the final part of the question, which was what are some practical ways that we can stop gossiping. I think there's a few things. The first thing is that I need to realize that when I'm gossiping about someone, that is a symptom of a lack of love for that person. I would never gossip about somebody that I truly and deeply love. So when I find myself doing that, let me lift my heart to the Lord and ask, that He helps me to increase my love for that person. Secondly, when I'm gossiping about somebody, it means that I'm not thinking about my own mistakes and my own shortcomings. So let me ask the Lord, to help me to be more aware of my own sins and less mindful of what other people are doing. Now, I guess other things that we can do are just to create an environment in our circle of friends and acquaintances where gossiping is not okay. And so let it be an unusual and an odd and a strange thing, much like swearing is, and so that, look, it's just not the done thing. Create that environment. If people are gossiping around you, if possible, redirect the conversation. Never participate. And if sort of the circumstance allows it and you're brave enough, then just say, look, I prefer to talk about something else, and just make a very clear statement. But sometimes that's not always appropriate or possible. So just steering the conversation elsewhere, or at the very least not participating, would be a compromise. So in summary, increase in love for the person. I pray that I can increase in my awareness of my own mistakes. I create a culture and be a part of a culture where gossiping is not okay. Redirect the conversation if possible. Stop the conversation if I'm brave enough. And at the very, very least, never ever participate. Great. I hope that's okay.
Gossiping.
I can't.